Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Tech Collector. The scene might look a little bit different, maybe it doesn't, but the reason that may be is because I'm actually using the two small RGB LED lights I'm going to be talking about in this video as my key light and my fill. Let's get into this. Okay, the two lights we're going to be talking about today are two of the big ones in the current environment of small, packable RGB lights that are bringing all the tech to the current industry for these small guys. The first one is my key light, and that is the Nanlite PavoTube. This is the 6C, the small one. It's been out of stock for quite some time, so I finally got a few of these guys in. And I've been trying them out, and I have to say I'm very impressed with them. The second one is kind of the king of all of this, and that's the Aperture MC. The Aperture MC is kind of a do-everything between the tech that's involved with it, the quality of the light, the fact that it comes with its own very interesting but useful diffuser, and the ability to control it via Bluetooth. Puts this one as kind of the top of the industry as far as I'm concerned for usability and really user ability, being able to use this in so many different types of environments, from real filmmaking to lighting up and using it for key or fill lights in this type of desktop video. As is the case with most Aperture products, packaging is top notch with the MC. You get this little case here to carry your lights around in. I don't really use it. I kind of just throw them all in together into the bag and haven't had any issues with that. You get obviously the light. You get some of these Velcros for the places that don't have magnets, not able to stick it up with magnets. Nice little box. And you get the USB-C charging cable. It's a nice small box. Everything comes together. It's got everything you need. And you also get, obviously, the diffuser, which is actually a really neat piece. The light sets recessed into this, so you actually get a little bit of distance between the edge of the light and the end of the diffuser, so it's more effective than you would expect for such a small piece. With the PavoTube II 6C, you actually get very generic little cardboard box. You get a kind of velvet sock for the thing to ride in. You get these little metal plates that you can use gaff tape to tape onto things that are not magnetic, sort of the opposite of the whole Velcro thing that they do with Aperture MC. They give you steel to put onto things to make it magnetic. And the typical user manuals that I assume I'm not the only one that never looks at, but they are user manuals that essentially tell you how to hang things and how to use magnets. So nothing too dramatic. They're both super user friendly, so you really don't need a user manual, because I would say within 5 seconds of playing with it, you got it all figured out. There's really not a whole lot to do. I think the Nanlite has better controls on board, just easier to use. You do have a little bit of delays. You have to wait and kind of time this out while it starts, but you're not accidentally turning it on your bag, obviously. And then you have some killer controls there for everything, from going through all your different effects. This is kind of the hue loop. I'm just flashing a bunch of different colors. It's kind of bright right now, so you probably can't even make a lot of that out. Welding, in case you need to film a welding video of some sort. Explosion, I haven't really found a whole lot of use for, but I guess if you wanted to set it up and kind of have some pops of light every once in a while. Fireworks would be good, out of a window kind of view. They are very bright, so they might be a little bit unrealistic for fireworks, unlike the Aperture, which does it pretty well. Bad bulb is, just your flicker. Disco is, I don't know what you would use this for. Maybe you're filming a disco scene, but it's interesting. The candle fire, I don't really get. It doesn't really have the right color to me, but it does have the right flicker, I guess. But you would think, you'd be able to adjust a little bit with the color tone for this one to make it a little bit more useful. Paparazzi, they both have this. Pretty slick if that's something you need to use. TV, this one's interesting. Essentially, you set this up and it does look, when you're filming someone and you have this light lighting them up, it does look like they are watching changing scenes on a TV show. It's interesting. Police car, both have this. This is, if you're filming something where you need to have the police roll up on your scene, these do actually really work well in imparting that kind of image coming in. Storm is lightning, and that one works. I probably use that more than anything, just because it's really cool to replicate that, especially with these brighter Nanlites. You can make some nice lightning flashes in a dark room and make it look fairly believable. You add in your thunder and you're pretty much good to go. So that's the different effects. Then obviously you have your different setups. The CCT is just basically, you can change the dimness, brightness on this, but it is set right now at 5600, which is where I typically just keep it. And then you have your hue. You can go through all of the different colors, pretty much anything you want. It's pretty much the same as is set up on the MC, except you can't cycle all the way through and start back at the top again. You do have the dimness that you can change, and you switch this over to, your actual change of color. Most everything's probably going to look white in this particular setting, just because it is a very bright light and it's set to 100%. I probably should have dimmed that a bit just to make it a bit more user friendly for this video. So as you see, you can cycle through just like you can with the spin dial of the Aperture MC and go to whatever color you want. You can set them all to exactly the same color and get a really nice representation. We'll do that on kind of a background light here in a bit so you can see what it looks like. This one, the button controls are not quite as good when it really comes down to it. You do have a power switch that one of mine is very tight and doesn't really want to turn on all that well. You got your USB-C charging port, and you got your dial, which is pretty much everything in this one. You've got your screen, and when you hold down that, it gets you to your different modes. So you can go into the one that's really stands out on this one is the Bluetooth. Bluetooth, once you put that in there, you can control everything with your phone. We'll do a little bit of that. Kind of bring up my phone here just to kind of show you what happens. We're going to open up the Sidus link. That's Aperture's link for doing these kind of things. And you can go in and do your different scenes. I only have one of them on right now, so we'll just control that one. And you can see you can adjust the intensity, make it a little bit more user-friendly there. You can go into your color, and then you can kind of just go to whatever color you're interested in doing. This comes in really handy when you use these as background lights, and you want to just throw up a different shade for change of scenery, whatever it may be. You can also switch between your effects, the intensity of the lights, and the frequency of the effects. If you want to do the paparazzi, you can change the frequency to something a bit more and kind of have it go off a little bit more often. You start that and you get more of the flashes, or you can take it down. It's a slick system. I mean, it is no doubt a very interesting system, very easy to use, and great to have that Bluetooth interface. Otherwise, everything's pretty much the same. When you look at them, you go through and you have your color wheel. You have your essentially the ability to get your 5600K at your different. I think this one doesn't have quite the range. It looks like it goes down to 3200K, and we range up to, let's see if we can get that on there, 6500. The PavoTube has a little bit wider range, but how that would actually be used, I don't know. I don't think I would be using it very often. I haven't up to this point. And then your intensity, just to bring up the intensity. It's all, like I said, it's all very user-friendly. There's not really a whole lot that you need to be shown on these. I think, one of the things that makes them the most useful is the magnets on board, because you can throw these things anywhere. If you don't have the magnet, you use the Velcro or the little iron plates to hold it up there, and you get a really nice ability to hide a fairly small, obviously the MC is much easier to hide, but you get good quality light. Everything I've lit in filming this desktop has all been with a single PavoTube, and it's worked really well for that, and it gives you good quality light. So how do they do as accent lights? Starting with two of the PavoTubes set to I believe 196 to kind of emulate the blue neon headphone I have back there, make it look like it is a much more light than it actually gives off. I think I probably should have, if I actually wanted to use that properly, to accent those lights and make them look like they are actually lighting up, the neon's actually lighting that area up, to take it down quite a bit. But as you can see, you get great color, you get a lot of spread, and you get really good quality light back there. These PavoTubes put out a lot more light than the little MCs, which would be expected, and they are, as accent lights, if you can hide them, they're very effective. As you can see, there's a bit of a drop off on the saturation and the overall brightness when you switch to the Aperture MCs, but it's probably more realistic, and it could actually be brought down a little bit too to make it more realistic and make it look like, you know, that neon light back there is actually lighting up the back of my space. You know, some of the things about this Aperture that I think put it above and beyond. One is the Bluetooth. The Bluetooth is fantastic to be able to do that and to be able to essentially do all of those controls on board. Makes a lot of sense. You don't get that with the Nanlite out of the box. You can buy accessories to make that happen, but it doesn't come with it. Another is essentially the size and the ability to hide this in spaces very simply and make for great accent ability. You know, when I have them back there, I turn on a different one of my neon lights with my phone. I can also just switch over the color scheme on the actual MC. You can group the MCs so that they change together. You can actually set up essentially scenes where I could say if I turn on the light bulb up high, then I want the MCs to light up to this color at this level. It's pretty amazing what you get for a $100 light. It is above and beyond the amount of tech that's built into this at such a, we'll call it, affordable price. I would also have to give the edge to the MC on battery life. I can put both of those back there, 2.5 hours, they go, and they still are lit, they go, they work. The Nanlite, I'm getting maybe an hour at 100%. With that said, you know, I don't really need 100%. I could go down to 40 and probably be the same equivalent of what I'm getting out of the MCs, because these are very bright lights, these Nanlites. So I'd probably get a much longer lead time, much longer lit time. But I'm trying to do, you know, head-to-head comparison here, both at 100%. So I will say the MC definitely has longer battery life. It also has the ability to wirelessly charge, which I've ordered, but I don't have it here yet, a large pad that I can kind of lay on the desktop and charge all of the MCs. And I think that makes things very convenient, not having to have USB-C cords laying around. Being able to wirelessly charge is kind of a game changer, and I think that's why, you know, as far as the tech goes, I'd have to always give it to the MC. You know, usability, the MC is much smaller. You can fit, you know, into a much smaller hiding place if you really want to light something without it being visible than you can the Nanlite. The light's not going to be as dramatic, but for such a small light, the light quality is very good. And really, when it comes down to it, the color and the effects and everything you have there, it's hard to beat the MC. They're both very similar in price, but you know, I would say, since they're both fairly cheap as it goes for LED lights, especially RGB lights, I would say that there's reason to have both of them in your kit. I will absolutely use both of them for different situations. And you know, if they're both useful and they can be got at a pretty good price when you think about some of the lights that we do use in our setups, there's really no going wrong with either one of them. So there you have it. It's two of what I consider to be the best in the industry for the small RGB lights. Both immensely useful. I would think the biggest difference between them is the added tech that you get with the MC and the better buttons and better controls, I think, on the Nanlite, and the brightness that you get with the Nanlite. It's just a stronger light, and it does not have that single wheel, which I often find myself, you know, adjusting things I don't intend to adjust on the MC, because you go through and you cycle through and you're changing things that you never intended to. Both of them are fantastic lights. Both of them are well worth being in your bag and going out in the scene with you and wherever you want to use them. I would highly recommend both, especially at the prices you get them for. It's just amazing the amount of tech they fit into a small package at such a small price. Hope you guys found this one entertaining, and we'll see you on the next one.